welcome back to the channel. We're back on the Fox Body Day. So it is Monday morning. I'm about exhausted. My wife told me this morning, she was like, you look exhausted. And I laughed. I was like, yeah, I know. And she was like, no, it's like really bad. Like, she's like, it's unhealthy for you. I was like, yeah, because I don't sleep no more hardly. So we're going to get on the Mustang today. I got something to show y'all and explain what happened here. Okay, so I got to admit something. She's painted. She's painted. So we're about to go take a look at it. Here is what happened. So Harper, okay, my little one, if you're new to the channel, you might not have seen her yet, but y'all OGs have seen Harper's crazy tail multiple times. Got a hold of the GoPro last week at the house. My wife told me that she got a hold of it and that, you know, I need to stop leaving it out. I knew I didn't need the GoPro at the shop that day, so I left it at home on the nightstand. So Harper has broke the picture frame on the nightstand. She broke a gift my other daughter gave me. She gets into everything and just tears the house apart. Harper is a little tornado that just destroys everything that she gets around pretty much because she is so wild and wants to get into everything. So she got into the GoPro. She changed the settings on it. And she changed it from time-lapse video to time-lapse photo. I time-lapsed that whole paint job for y'all, and then when I got home to edit it, the plan was to edit down the time-lapse and do a voiceover to show you the whole process of painting that car. Everything, I was going to voice over it and, you know, go into detail while we time-lapsed it. Of how we do it. Showed the products we used, showed everything, showed the whole 9 yards, got home, and I literally had thousands of photos, not video. So it's all gone. So we're gonna walk in the booth and see the color this morning. I'm gonna show you all the color and then I'm gonna get it out. We're gonna move on today to probably the doors, try to get the doors painted today. And what I will do is on the upcoming stuff, the doors and stuff like that, I'll try to at least probably on the doors do some video for a couple guys that they said they're in the middle of painting a project of their own and stuff. I'll try to do, you know, the video explaining everything on the doors to just make sure that anybody that's watching the video for the actual knowledge is up to date on how I do it or what I do. So let's walk in here and I'll show y'all how it turned out. All right, so as you can see, it is all sprayed and it turned out really, really good. So, no real issues on this one. If you recall on Randy's car, I put a lot of runs in it. This one I put a couple sags in. I have a tiny sag right there. All that is from, you know, you spraying your roof and then you go do something else. I was trying to explain that in a time lapse that I lost. And then you come back and then you start here and walk your way down. And so this area right here is getting double overlapped, sometimes triple if you're going up the side like that. So that's what happened. That's the reason why the sag is literally right here, because it's a combination of this pass, and this pass. That puts this right here 3 times where that is. So there's other ways to do that more efficient, you know, but it is what it is. So there's a sag down there too, and right there. Normally these sags are always, again, in triple overlaps. So you're doing this, you're stopping, and then I'm either going down there or I'm coming up here and I'm nailing it like this, okay? And then this right here, I'm going into that and pulling that down. So this area right here is a triple overlap, and that's normally where I get sags if I'm trying to put something on super wet. Now my flip cars and stuff, I don't ever have problems like this hardly, unless I'm just being real careless, because I just move a little faster and I don't care so much how they look. This side, there's no sags in it, nothing like that, so this side turned out perfectly fine. Has trash in it like always from my booth. It's kind of hard to see, but when we walk the reflection right here in this light, you're gonna be looking in this light, you can see, you know, the little glimmers of trash specks and a little bit of fuzziness, shrink back. So it's already had some shrink back. This was painted on Thursday and I have kept this from y'all. I'm guilty of that. Kept it from y'all since last Thursday. But we're gonna come in here, this thing's gonna get buffed out to glass like Randy's was. Randy's was high solids, this one is not high solids, this one's just a production clear. You see some more trash up here, and then there's some down here somewhere. I don't know, there's trash in it. But this is a production clear, it's nothing super high end or crazy. Looks like the booth was leaking from it raining this weekend. Sometimes this up here, it's got a little tiny leak somewhere, and whenever it's pouring, like if it's like tropical storm status, then it will leak. But the bumper was long dried, so no issues with that. No problems with the bumpers, no runs, no sags, no issues at all. It turned out good. The bumper we will probably only be wet sanding and buffing just this top strip. That's all you're going to wet sand and buff on your bumper, because this is going to go black right here, and then all that down there you won't see. So we will not be buffing from the body line down. You never do that because it's reflecting off the ground. As long as your work is pretty decent, there's no reason to be cutting and buffing down low. And you know, these cars, like on the back below the molding anyway, take a beating from rubber and all that, so there's just absolutely no reason to waste any time cutting and buffing down there. We'll cut and buff just this little area. These cowl panels turned out freaking amazing. They're nice and slick. Got one piece in the center that we will have to address, and it's actually contamination, so I will show y'all. So it's a crater basically. It's in, not above the clear. A piece of trash lays on top of the clear. Contamination is down in the clear like a crater. So you can see right there, I will show you how we fix that. So when we paint the other parts, we'll get a fix on that. Besides that, it looks good. You know, we're not gonna be doing no cutting and buffing on the firewall. That all is what it is. And we will be doing no cut and buffing obviously on the shock towers. All that stuff gets covered up. So it's not top-notch flawless work, but it is damn good work. Price point plays a factor in a lot of that. So like I said, when the customer come to me, he said he did not want Randy's level of work, that he just wanted a really solid, good looking paint job, and that's what we gave him. So this thing is going to look amazing when it's together, and he won't have to take out a second mortgage to afford to paint his car and worry about scratching it or denting it or whatever. So got underneath all the deck lid. The time lapse would have showed y'all that how we did the deck lid was I started with it, let's see here, upside down. I painted the inside of the deck lid with the base coat on the paint stand first, and then after I had good coverage on the bottom side, I then took it and put it on the car, and then I painted the outside blue with the car, and then I cleared everything together with it on here. But I wanted to make sure that this was laying on the paint stand to paint the blue on the bottom so that I could get coverage, you know, such as down in here, which is a nightmare to get coverage if it's on the car. So there's no missed spots on that deck lid. The bottom side is 100% blue. The taillight panel is all done out, so everything looks amazing. All the jams are nice and clean, full coverage. They look really good, so I'm super stoked with this thing. So we're gonna get it rolled out of here today and hopefully get on over to painting some more parts today. All right, so we're getting our doors all blocked out this morning. Found a little tiny nick, so we went ahead and touched that up. We'll just blend that out with a little rattle can primer right before we wet sand it probably. Pulled our door handles, as you can see. Ed's over there slinging some filler. Ed, you like the body filler?
No, I like my wrenches.
Ed's hating the body filler. He's having to help me out because I got so much going on with the Mustang, so he's having to work on learning how to sling body filler on flip cars. But as you can see, we pulled all the door handles on the doors, decided to go ahead and do that. So I'm just going through doing the final sand of the edges. I will not sand inside here. There's no reason to sand inside here because your molding goes back over this. So all you'll do is you need to sand it so that the paint will stick to it, but you'll just use a burgundy Scotch Brite pad. So whenever you go to wash the vehicle or the items, you can get inside there with that, and that will scuff it up enough so that the paint adheres to it, but it won't take the orange peel out of the primer. So it'll still be a little tiny bit of texture in orange peel, but being that this is a valley in here, more than likely you can just Scotch Brite this, and when this is clear coated and sprayed out, this will look as slick as this without you getting in here and sanding it. Because if you get in here and sand this with sandpaper, you're probably going to cut through, or it's going to take a lot of time to do it. And it's okay if you cut through. You know, there's some areas where some blue is showing, you know, and I've cut through a couple of places, like right here, you know, there's some blue showing. That's not a problem, so don't get worried if you cut through. It's not a big deal. I'm about to sand this one out. To sand out these handles, we literally just get in here and we use our finger, okay? So wherever your finger's at on your sandpaper is where you're putting the pressure. So if you're putting the pressure right here, then you're literally digging a trench in the center of this flat. So we want to put our finger in here, and then when we do this area right here, we want to make sure we have our fingers, you know, spread evenly across it. So all I do on that one is literally just push my finger up in to that curved area so that I can get that out and, you know, not dig trenches above it. And as you can see, the only areas that we've sanded is right there. And then we'll come back with, you know, the edge of this with your two fingers, and you'll kind of sand this whole thing. I'm still pushing my finger down here into this edge, not into here. And I'm just going to work out this top now. When you get into the corners of this door handle, you're going to do the same thing. But now you can see that, okay, all that's sanded. You can see our guide coat. That's what we're using as our guide coat, so we can see what we're doing. When we get in this corner, I kind of use my thumb and just kind of jingle it around, wiggle it around, and work this corner out without digging it out too much, you know, go in and out of it. And I'm kind of curving my sandpaper up like that, as you can see, so that I can get down in there. So that's all we're gonna do, and keep working these. We run over all of our edges. So how I DA'd the flat here, I DA'd the flat here, and I DA'd the flat here, but I did not DA my edges. So then what you simply do is, a lot of times I split the edge in between, or if I do this, I'll have my middle finger on that edge lightly, and I'll have pressure on the outers, and I'll just run it like that with it curved over it, and that will smooth that right out, you know, a little bit more right there. But you don't have to get it all, because all this is just cutting the orange peel out. The Scotch Brite will make it so that it adheres, so you don't have to worry about getting it all off. So that looks good right there. And then the same thing with these edges, I'll just gently run over real quick, just to make sure you don't have a little rock chip right on the body line that needs to be filled, because that's all that was right there, is this little tiny rock chip. You know, so all you're just running over your body lines just to make sure there's no chip in the paint or anything. You're not trying to, you know, sand it down or anything per se. So that looks good. And then, like I said, on this, I'm doing the same thing. So you can see where I have all this done. That's about what it looks like when it's done. You can see some of the blues cut through. I'm not worried about really tight up inside here, because I'll let the Scotch Brite just kind of roll that out, but I'm pushing my middle finger down into that groove, and then I'm taking my pointer finger and folding this sandpaper over the top up here so that it cuts this body line also at the same time, and then I'm holding the ring finger out here, okay? So I'm not putting pressure on, I'm putting pressure in the groove here, and then I'm letting the sandpaper float across the edge of this, which is still gonna cut it through, but I'm not like putting a ton of pressure on, you know, my finger actually on that edge. So, and you might think that this is the most basic stuff, but the thing about this is what you're doing right now when you're sanding your primer, after you clear coat it, you're gonna be able to see what you sanded. So if you sit here and cut grooves in this thing, or if you take the DA, if this is your DA and you turn it on its side and you're sanding like this with the edge of the sandpaper and you're not sanding flat, then when you're done, you're gonna see ring marks all in your clear coat. When the sun hits it just right, you're gonna see, you're gonna see them ring marks. So all I'm doing is, and then like down here, I'm just gonna run around the edge with some sandpaper to just make sure. You remember how we had some rust down here and the edges were not even? Basically, if you don't smooth your edges out, then when you're done with the paint job, you can go up to somebody's car and look at the paint job, and you can look at their edges, and if they're jagged and you know everything, that means that they didn't smooth their edge out. So it's the little tiny details that make it look like a brand new panel, versus, you know, you just having the flats look brand new and then the rest of it, you know, still looks jagged and tore all up, because you remember these edges were pretty rough. And I understand that you don't really see them a ton, but this just makes this cleans your edges up where they look like they were back new again, and really makes it look a lot better, especially inside the door gaps, because you'll have certain vehicles where the edges are so rough that after it goes through paint and this edge closes against the other edge, that you'll be able to basically see like this, where it's, you know, chipped up, the paint's chipped and stuff. And I'm not really worried too much about cutting through on the edges because of that. It's just right on the edge. I just really want the edge more slick than anything. So, and these edges are not perfect. Again, we did not, I keep saying it, you know, about the price point that we sold the job at, because some people are new to the channel. We're getting new subscribers in here every single day, and I just want people to understand that if you go to watch, you know, one car's paint work and then you watch another, that you've got to understand that things might be done a little different, or to a little bit different of a level, because of, you know, the budget that we were working with or something like that. So that all determines, you know, stuff like that. Like on this job, we can skip sanding this because there's molding going back in here, whereas Randy's job, I had to do all of this by hand. So I had to get in here and make sure there was no nicks. I had to get everything, because his is exposed. He don't have molding on his. So all of that had to be finished out, whereas this job does not have to be finished out. Randy did not have door pockets, so I did not have to sit there and drill out rivets and remove door handles and sand all inside here, because his was flat. But then we had to do extra work on Randy's, where we had to dolphin glaze this and body fill this, and we had to feather this whole thing out right here, because when the fiberglass door is made, they have this, you know, area kind of ever so slightly recessed where you can see it in the reflection if you don't address it on your fiberglass doors before paint. And then after you paint it and after it's clear coated, you'll see where that door handle is supposed to be, and it just completely looks like crap. Like if you look at somebody's car and you can see that door handle on a fiberglass door, it's whoever did the body work just did not take their time to properly use dolphin glazes and, you know, fillers and blocking and everything. On his, we sanded it way down, and then we took body filler and we put body filler across it. We sanded that out, then we dolphin glazed it, stepped it way out, so we ended up on Randy's probably stepping way out to here, long blocking all of that, and then we put thick primer over all of his doors because they were fiberglass, and then we blocked them out. I had multiple people comment on the channel on them videos saying that you'll never get that door as slick as glass, that they have never seen it in 30 years or whatever they've been doing it, and when it was done, that door was slick as glass. And I had people comment and, you know, basically, wow, I've never seen nothing that slick. You know, the work looks amazing. And all it was is, not that I'm, you know anything that anybody else don't know. I just took the time to, you know, do a lot of blocking and, you know, make sure everything was stepped out and prepped correctly. You know, these details right here are what takes the time that a lot of people don't realize or see whenever you have a shop charging you. So I'm gonna finish prepping out these doors, and I think we're gonna move on to the fenders and get them into primer today, hopefully. All right, let's talk all steel, all glass cars versus race cars like Randy's with a fiberglass front end. Which one is often in better shape and which one's not? And let me explain why, and let me explain some of the problems. I'm gonna point some stuff out with this job, and I'm gonna use this job as an example because the owner's really cool, so I know he's not gonna be like anal about it or make a big deal over it. So when he contacted me, he said that the car was in pretty good condition, pretty straight. You know, that he didn't think it was as bad as Randy's car, and he was sort of correct. But I want to take this chance that I have these two cars that are on the channel to explain the difference to y'all. So Randy's car had been hit in the quarter panel, and then the front end needed some fiberglass work on the front end nose. So the quarter panel had a lot of body filler over it. It needed to be straightened out, body lines. Both sides had body filler on them. So you had the passenger side quarter panel and the driver's side quarter panel on Randy's. that needed to be straightened out. Body work, body lines needed to be put back. It was a decent amount of sanding. But we only had 2 quarters to do on Randy's pretty much. He had 1 dent in the roof, and that was it. Fiberglass parts don't have dents and dings normally. They can have imperfections, but that car had already been repainted once, so a lot of the actual fiberglass stuff was full of it, and all we needed to do was quite a bit of blocking to straighten it out. So Randy's car was kind of in rough shape, I guess you could say. Like, we had a lot of stuff to fix, but we didn't have no dents and dings. So they're kind of different monsters. Whereas this one we had, I don't remember, you'd have to go back and watch the video, but how many dents did we have to fix on the roof of this car? Like 6 at least. Plus, you know, a couple dents in each quarter panel. The doors have at least had, you know, 3 to 6 dents per door, and each fender has had, you know, 3 or 4 dents in every single one. Every dent has to be filled, long blocked and all that, and then you put your primer on it, and then you long block your primer. So basically, it was like this car was here, and then we had to fix our dings and dents, you know, with body filler, block our body filler, and then we could put our primer on it, and then we could block our primer and work our way up. Whereas Randy's car, it started here, no dents, no dings, straight to primer pretty much, block our primer and work our way up. So this car gets just as much blocking of primer as Randy's car got, basically. So they're kind of different monsters. You know, when you're working with the all-steel car, there's going to be dents and dings all over it that a race car that has fiberglass doors, fiberglass fenders, fiberglass hood, fiberglass front end will not have. You might have imperfections in the fiberglass, but you're not going to actually have the dings to fix and go through and straighten out and all that. You're just going to have a lot of blocking of primer work to make everything slick. Now this one, the bumpers were a complete nightmare, whereas Randy's back bumper was a walk in the park, and then his front bumper, of course, was built into the one-piece front end, and it really wasn't bad at all. Like, we had to straighten out a couple body lines, but it wasn't very bad at all, because it was a fiberglass front end. Versus this one, you're dealing with all the spider cracks, all the old paint, a lot of stuff. So as you're doing your project or you're helping somebody else with their project, you need to understand that a lot of times they're complete different animals, completely different monsters, and you're going to have different issues to deal with on each car. Some people would rather, I'd rather just straighten out fiberglass, make sure my door gaps are right, make sure all the fitment's right, and do the little fiberglass imperfections versus, you know, having to take care of a bunch of waviness and a bunch of dents and dings. Let me flip you around. We got the fender blocked out, and I'll kind of show you what's going on with the fender as some examples. So on your fender, we have this whole area right here, which is a low, but it's not an extreme low. Our sandpaper is getting into it. So our sandpaper, you can see, is into the white, our sandpaper is in the purple, and our sandpaper is into the black. And it's even deeper into the white right there. You got this yellowish that surrounds it. I'm pretty sure this is a skim coat of body filler, so there was probably a dent in this area at some point. You have this extreme dent right here in this fender where the molding obviously got smacked at some point, but the edge of the body line is pretty decently straight. It has a little bit of knock, you know, a little bit of inness to it, but we're gonna tap this out from the inside, and that's gonna help straighten it out. But overall, this body line is straight. So you don't need to mess with filling this, because obviously your molding covers all that. So that don't need to mess with, but you can see right here, our sandpaper got into our black, but being there's black paint left, that tells you that that was a low. It's just the black paint was kind of filling in some of the low. So there's a low there, and that low is there because of that. I'm gonna need it, but no, just trash it. I don't want that. So I don't want your clumped up mess, Ed. Throw that crap in the trash. God, no, I'll mix my own, Ed. I'm good. I don't need your mess. Your last looks like it's got Rice Krispies in it. So we're gonna tap this out from the backside, but we're not gonna do no body work. And by tapping that out, that's just gonna help pull all this out, because when this thing gets created, it kind of you know, dimples in the whole area right here. This low right here, being our sandpaper is all into the black, tells me that across this way we're pretty flat now. You don't feel it at all with your hands, but I mean, the sander doesn't lie. That tells you that basically all of that was a low. You got another ding up here, a pretty good size one. You can tell it's pretty good size because how dark the black paint is and how extremely it jumps to white right there. So basically the white's high, and then the purple steps down and the black's down in the low. So when you have the extreme color change so tight together, normally that means it's a very deep dent versus when it's spread out and gradual like that. So that's a good size ding. Again, it matches on this side of the fender where it's a low, and that could just be the way the fender is stamped in the mold, honestly. That might not be nothing to do with accident related, but if you're blocking your fender, you need to understand that technically that is a low, even though now that plane across there should be all straight. You got a really good sized ding up there, you know, one there, remnants of ones right there, and then were leftover ones. They don't need filler, but they were lows. That's the reason why some of the black is left behind. That one's really dark in the center, meaning that that's still has a low in it, and I can actually feel that with my finger also. So that one needs filler, that one needs filler, which I can feel, that one needs filler, which I can feel, and then there is remnants of kind of semi-lows right there from sanding. So, you know, every single one of these steel panels have been pretty, you know, a couple of dings in each panel that need to be go over. So I just kind of wanted to stop and point that out so that you understand, you know, if you sit there and think that, you know, a fiberglass front end is more work than a steel front end, you could be wrong. It all depends on what you want to do. Now, we don't have to worry about none of our edges. We don't have to worry about imperfections, you know, that the fiberglass has, but you do got to make sure you block and get your dings out so you don't have dings in it. So I'm going to get on it. I'm going to swipe these and block these out. And then the goal is to get this in primer. And I'm probably going to go ahead, it's a little after 2 o'clock. I'm probably just going to go ahead and sand on the front bumper today because it is Monday. And if I can squeeze these into paint by 3:30, that'd be amazing. Or if I can at least squeeze one side in today so I can flip it on the other side, that means Tuesday afternoon the doors would be done. And then that puts me into Wednesday of doing the 2 fenders in the front bumper. And then hopefully that would put me at Thursday of maybe assembling, and then, you know, Thursday, Friday, maybe wet sanding and buffing, and Monday and Tuesday wrapping it up. I think he's coming down to pick it up next Tuesday or Wednesday. So we're looking like we're on track as of right now. All right, so we're about to get started on our bumper, and as you can see, the condition of it is far below poor. We're gonna have our work cut out on us on this one, but we are gonna try our best to get it down. These are extremely hard to get taken down because of the fact that if it was metal and you're sanding, then once you sand the paint off, once your sandpaper touches the metal doesn't go deeper because it's extremely hard to sand metal down with sandpaper. It just doles your sandpaper out. Whereas plastic, once your sandpaper cuts through the paint, it will keep on cutting into the plastic, which could leave gouges or imperfections and stuff like that in the paint. So all of this stuff is extremely, extremely difficult to get sorted out. We're gonna give it our best shot. We're gonna give it, you know, the best that we can give it, but this bumper has seen its better days. So this bumper is extremely wore out and tired, to say the least. It has, you know, problems every freaking where. We're gonna get started sanding on it. I'm gonna start out with an 80 grit on the DA, and I'm gonna try to just knock the bulk of this out and get it smoothed out. I'll really only have to worry from the bottom of this body line up. This down you won't really see, and there's not really too much damage down here. We do have this lip that we got to clean up, but we're not super worried about this down because you don't really see it how it rolls under the car, but we're big time worried about from here up. So let me get at it. This is going to take a while to get this knocked down carefully probably, and then we'll have to get some primer back over it and built back up. Yep. All right, so we're trying to make 5 o'clock here. I went and 80'd all of this down with the DA. Ed's come behind me and did all of these little grooves by hand. That's the only way to do it. Literally every nook and cranny has to be done by hand. Every single crack inside here has to be done by hand. All inside the light pockets by hand. Everything. The DA will get these flats. You know, you can see how it's curved right here because the DA will get that. And you can see how it kind of curves right there. The DA will get that. Same deal with this right here. You can see how the DA will get right here, but then all that has to be by hand. Ed, I don't think you got up in here. That don't look like nothing's. That's got both of them. Yeah, grab that. I grabbed the edges of all this with the DA, the flats with the DA. You know, you could do the flats with the DA all around the light like this, but then, you know, up inside there, you got to get. So, yeah, ton of work to get this bumper to this point. So I think I'm at about 2 hours probably. The headlight buckets were so bad because people have just layered primer on top of primer on top of primer on top of primer. So you originally had cracks, and what they did is come in there, scuffed it up, put primer on it, buried it, and they literally just kept burying the problem. It looked like about 3 paint jobs deep worth of burying. So we took it, as you can see right there, all the way down to pretty much the plastic, and then we dolphin glazed it. It was pretty gouged up and scratched up underneath there pretty bad, and there's a bunch of old filler and stuff in there. So we went ahead and dolphin glazed this out before we put our primer on it. 2 good sized scratches in the front bumper where it had rear-ended something, and we went ahead and got that. And then the same thing with the other headlight bucket. We went ahead and dolphin glazed. We'll prime this thing. This is in 80 grit, which is extremely rough for plastic. I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all. Normally you do not use 80 grit on your plastic, but when you're trying to strip paint down like this, you really don't have a choice. So you prefer to go no rougher than about 180, preferably 320 on plastic or finer. But we had to really just tear this thing down, man. And I mean, it is freaking tore up. I don't know if you can tell how rough it is. I mean, to get it down. So a lot of work's gonna have to go into this thing. More than likely, we're about to knock this dolphin glaze out and then get this thing in 1 coat of primer this afternoon with the other fender. We got one fender done over there, and I messed up and missed the other one that was over there. So our goal is to get this in primer and the other fender in primer, so I can walk into Tuesday with everything in primer or painted. So let me get this 180 out. We're going 180 the dolphin glaze out, and then we're going to shoot some primer this afternoon so that we're starting our Tuesday morning off with no more raw prep work. But this bumper's probably going to be primed twice, probably. We'll put it on super thick this afternoon, and then we'll block that out. But it's probably after that gets blocked out, it's going to take probably a ton of it off, and then it's probably going to have to be done again with primer.